Some houses are never truly homes. For me, my parents' house was full of laughter, but I was never invited in. Since childhood, I stood on the edge of the living room, watching my brother bask in the glow of their love. Fancy clothes, delicious food, paraded on display for the family's golden child. Me? I chewed cold rice in the kitchen, spoon clinks from the dining table ringing in my ears, reminding me I never belonged there. He was the pride. I was the daughter who must know how to sacrifice. I remember winters so cold my fingers cracked, but I still had to wash his pile of laundry for Mom. When I asked for a warm coat, Dad said, "Your old one works. The money buys your brother's new coat." I wore that threadbare jacket for 2 years, while every season my brother had something new. At 14, I longed for a pair of white canvas shoes for school. But that morning, Mom sold them at the market and handed the cash right to my brother for a new leather bag. I stood there, barefoot and shivering on cold tiles, not crying but biting my lip until it bled, promising I would protect myself if no one else would. Dad always said, "Girls don't need an education. Learn all you want, you'll just end up as someone's wife." So when the time came, all the family money went to my brother's university. I was told to quit and stay home, but I didn't bow my head. I dove into my books and through sleepless nights, won my own scholarship. The day my acceptance letter came, I laughed and trembled. My parents looked at the letter and shook their heads. "If you can't pay, forget it. We're busy with your brother." They had no idea. I did pay for myself. I washed dishes, handed out flyers in the sun, packed boxes, all just to keep studying. Not a single coin from them. No one celebrated when I graduated. But standing on that stage, I heard a clear voice inside. "You've been reborn, Maya. No one needs to witness it." My brother, Ethan, grew up wrapped in the family's arms. They called him smart and bold. Truth is, he lived in a fantasy that he was born to succeed. Over and over, he poured money into stocks and wild investments, only to fail. But instead of scolding him, my parents coddled. "It's okay, son. Failure is the mother of success. You'll make it one day." Me? Every time I visited, they looked at me like a shadow, a single woman, a sister who should give way. But I am not a shadow. I am a flame. After years of work, every little paycheck I saved, stashed into a savings book. No fancy dresses, no lavish spending. I saved for a single dream, a little home where I could breathe freely and my existence would never be denied. And then the day came. I held the deed for my house in trembling hands. No luxury apartment, but for me, it shined brighter than all the lights in my parents' house. For the first time in my life, I thought, "This is mine. No one can take it away." I brought the news home, hoping, just a little, they would smile at me. But the smile never came. Instead, came my father's cold voice. "Sell it. Give the money to your brother. He needs capital for investment." I was stunned. My mother chimed in. "Girls don't need houses. You'll get married and leave. But your brother, he is our family's future." Ethan, in his expensive shirt, sneered. "You only know how to live like an ant in your tiny apartment. I'll double that money in no time." I looked around the old house, walls covered in my brother's photos, none of mine. I felt like a stranger among my own family. But this time, I didn't stay silent. I took a deep breath. For the first time, I told my parents straight, "No, that money is mine. That house is mine, and I won't give it up, not a single brick of it." The room froze. My mother flushed, my father banged the table. Ethan laughed in contempt. I stood firm. Inside me, that clear voice again. "You have the right to live, the right to protect your own dream." And so, the darkness of an invisible daughter began to lift. I'd no longer stand outside any doors. I was the owner of the light, in the little house I built with my own scarred hands. The next morning, a message from HR popped up for Ethan. New employee orientation at 6 a.m. in the warehouse. Uniform and training schedule attached. I didn't smile. I poured water into the kettle, watching the steam curl like a ghost, in the air. Some things have to go through fire before you know what's pure. By 8, the company lobby was buzzing more than usual. Rumors flew faster than the elevator. Full staff meeting. Daniel will talk about accountability. I walked slowly, each footstep echoing. When the hall doors opened, the seats filled, the spotlight gathered at the wooden podium. On the giant screen, 4 bold words. Honor your word. Daniel stepped out. No mic needed. His voice carried through the room. We operate on contracts with clients and promises with each other. Contracts are ink on paper. Promises. We sign them on our integrity. He paused, glancing toward the door. Ethan stood there, wrinkled shirt, warehouse uniform still in his hands. He hesitated, then sat in the last row. My parents were absent this time. Maybe they understood this hall was no place for spectators. Daniel continued. Break a promise, and a company doesn't collapse right away, but a single loose brick in the foundation, then another and another, until we're surprised when the wall finally crumbles. Today, we don't talk about the market. We talk about the groundwork that lets us stand tall. He didn't name names, didn't point fingers. He spoke of young people, bright but lost between dreams and delusions. Elders, experienced yet tangled in sheltering and depriving, about little choices, compounding into a way of life. His tone was not angry. It was like steady rain on a tin roof, quiet, soaking in. Then he shifted, like flipping a chapter in a book. Someone signed an agreement in front of us. That person failed. There's no shame in failure. Shame is in walking away, in blaming. But honor is saying, I promised, and I'll pay up. He gestured to the warehouse manager, at the door. Bring up the uniform. The manager brought up a box, which Daniel set on the podium and opened. He lifted out a neat gray shirt and placed it by the microphone. Physical labor demeans no one. It raises a person, if they're willing to learn again. He looked straight at the last row. Ethan. The room tightened like a wire. Ethan stood, lips dry, eyes darting. He almost spoke, then stopped. Daniel motioned. Ethan walked up. I didn't blink. I watched the golden sun approach the hands that would place the uniform in his own. Daniel didn't snatch, didn't toss it. He simply handed it over. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. sharp. Ethan nodded, so quietly only the front row could see. Daniel faced the room again. One more thing. Don't let family become a prison. Don't make one person pay for another's unfunded dream. Everyone stands on their own. When you're steady, offer a hand. Not to carry, but to support. My eyes warmed. Not for Ethan, but for the words that haunted me for years. Girls don't need houses. I pressed my hand to my chest. There, my little apartment. A room glowing with my heartbeat. When the talk ended, people rose. Not a hint of applause. No triumphant noise. Instead, a strange quiet, like watching a sprout break through hard ground. Ethan clutched his uniform, passing by without a glance. I listened to his heavy breath, a man burdened by a suitcase too big for him. I didn't call after him. I let him go. Daniel stopped beside me. No comfort, no small talk. Only, you good? Good. Get home early tonight. I always do. We exchanged a look, both understanding what home meant in my mouth. Outside the hall, down the bright corridor, through the glass doors. The sun wasn't blinding, just enough light to read my name on the doorbell, to see the lines on my palm, little roads leading me home. I stepped out, greeted the security guard, listened as the doors turned on their soft hinges behind me. The sidewalk. I paused a moment, watching my shadow stretch across the damp road, long, but shading no one. I smiled, thinking, shadows matter. They remind me I'm standing in the sun, and I walked on. Behind me was a promise kept. Ahead was a home that didn't need me to defend it. In between stood me, a woman who'd learned to call her own name, in her own voice, not borrowed from fear or anyone else. Tonight I'll light a small candle, set it on the dinner table, eat a simple meal. I'll send a message to myself. Congrats. You didn't sell your house. You didn't sell your life. And I'll turn off the lights, let the candle burn its last flame, not to chase away darkness, but to remember. This light, this apartment, this voice, they are mine, lit by my own hand. Some days, sunrise brings not just a new morning, but a whole new life. The day I hung my apartment key on the hook, I knew the past had closed itself behind my door. For years, I'd sat on the old front steps, listening to my parents praise my brother, hearing the laughter of parties I'd never been invited to. Back then, I'd whisper to myself, someday, you'll have a place of your own. Now, I'm living that day. My apartment isn't spacious. The living room fits a sofa, a little wooden table, a single bookshelf against the wall. But for me, it stretches as wide as the sky. Here, for the first time, there are no echoes of blame from the stairs, no walls but blank pages where I write my own story. That first night, I lit a candle, yellow light skipping across empty walls. On the table, I set one photo, me in my graduation gown. No family in the frame, but the eyes in the picture belonged to a woman who'd walked through darkness and met herself. I look at that photo, then around the apartment and whisper, finally, you have a home. A few weeks later, I heard Ethan had started his days in the warehouse. 6 a.m. sharp, wearing the gray uniform, lugging boxes, sweeping floors, filing paperwork. Word was he stayed sullen and silent at first, even lashed out. But in time, when co-workers helped him out, he started bowing his head in gratitude. I didn't rejoice, didn't gloat. I just felt light. Light, like the breeze through a window barely open. My parents never caused trouble at my company again. Sometimes Mom texted, "Are you well?" I read it, replied, "I'm well." Nothing more, nothing less. I left that silence like a field waiting for new crops. Daniel, the man who witnessed my humiliation and saw me stand tall, sometimes dropped by my apartment. He'd bring a handful of wild daisies, sometimes lilies. He never said much. He'd put flowers in a vase, sit on the couch, listen as I told him about work, late nights, the quiet delight of picking out new curtains myself. Once, we stood together on the balcony, looking out over city lights blinking like man-made stars. He said softly, "You know, not everyone's strong enough to save themselves. But you did. That's why I respect you." I looked back at him. In his eyes, no pity, just silent recognition. I smiled. If love comes, let it come like this, not to rescue, but to shine a light. One night, I dreamed of the old house. I walked into the living room, walls crowded with my brother's childhood photos. But this time, on the wall was a new frame. Me, standing by my apartment, key in hand, smiling bright. I woke up comforted. Maybe, somewhere in my parents' hearts, I'd finally been acknowledged, even if only in a dream. Sunday, I went to the market early. I picked out apples, a bundle of greens, a handful of flowers for the table. On the way back, the sound of children's laughter echoed in the yard, reminding me of my own childhood, of the little girl who longed to laugh out loud without being silenced. I lifted my face to the sun. I thought, now I can laugh like that. That evening I cooked a simple meal, set 2 plates, 2 glasses, one for me, one for Hope. I ate slowly, savoring happiness like sweet water after a long drought. After dinner, I wrote in my little notebook, day, month, year. This is the day I found freedom. Not freedom given, but freedom claimed. I didn't sell my house. I didn't sell my life. I closed the notebook, set it on the shelf. Then I stepped out to the balcony, looking out over the city's night, the light brushing my face, cool and gentle. I know life holds more challenges, but now I have a home to begin from. If someone ever asks me, what is happiness? I won't point to the house, the bouquet, or the man who stood softly beside me. I'll point to my heart and say, happiness means you no longer need permission to exist. It's standing in your own light and knowing you deserve it. Tonight, I'll turn off all the lights, leaving a lone candle flickering in the corner. Its glow is shaky, but steady. Like me, once flickering in the wind, still burning on. And I'll close my eyes, listen to my heartbeat, to the far-off hum of the city, and whisper to that little girl who used to stand on the other side of the door, Maya, you have come home, and you have won.